welcome everybody to this webinar that is all about how do you as a contractor use this time of being shelter in place or slow down in work for those of you who maybe still be working to really build a better business and take this as an opportunity. And, you know, for the last 3 weeks, as I've been talking with clients and talking with contractors and really looking at, how are we all navigating this time together? The thought that just kept occurring to me when we kind of got past sort of the immediate, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with our team? And oh my gosh, what are we going to do with clients and working? And then the whole PPP thing. And once we got past all of that, the thought that just kept rattling around in the back of my head was, how can we as an industry use this time to make our businesses better? Because what I've watched over the last couple of years is everybody has been so busy and so full of work and being, trying to find teams and being short on staff and trying to, stay in front of it because there's been so much demand. And I just kept thinking, there's an opportunity here in this slowdown to really start working on our businesses and help improve those businesses. And so that got me, doing this outreach and asking people and different contractors, is there something that you're doing? And would you be willing to share that? And so the 6 panelists that I have joining me today are contractors who have built successful businesses who, responded and they said, yeah, we're really leaning into this time and looking at how can we use this time to stay engaged with our team or to improve our business or to finish projects that are undone or look at ways to improve how we manage our company overall. And so I'm super grateful. So thank you, first of all, panelists, for all being here. This is an amazing group of people. I think you guys are going to get a ton of value out of this conversation today. And before I ask them to each introduce themselves, let me just tell you a little bit about the format of how this is going to look today. So I am going to give each person an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then I'm going to ask the panelists to answer a series of 3 questions, possibly 4 questions as we go along. And they'll each take an opportunity to answer those questions in the way that they, how that applies to them in their business. And I will be tracking in the chat any questions that you have. So I encourage you that if you have questions to go ahead and type those into the chat, and I will capture those questions, and at the end we will leave time for Q&A. And we have all agreed that we've scheduled this webinar to be an hour and a half, and at the end of the hour and a half, if there's still questions or you want to hang out and chat some more and have more input and feedback that you'd like, then we're happy to all hang out and answer questions as long as you've got them. So without further ado, I'm just going to let each of the panelists introduce themselves. I'll call on you one at a time. You're just going to give a little bit about your company, your name, what your specialty is, and then we'll launch into the questions. So I'm going to start what's on my screen top left. I'm going to start with you, Frank Canova, if you would just introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Frank Canova. My company is Diablo Valley Cabinetry. We are located in Northern California, east of the San Francisco, Oakland area. We've been in business since 1982. My dad started the company. I've been doing this for 15 years. We specialize in cabinets. So our clientele is residential remodeling contractors, homeowners that are remodeling kitchens. We have a showroom, we've got a design team, and cabinetry is really our focus. So thank you very much for the invitation to participate. This is fun.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Okay, Patrick.
Hi there. Hello, my name is Patrick Fenn. Company name is Patrick A. Finn Limited. We've been in business since 1991. We've done over 600 remodeling projects. We're a design build firm. We're based just outside Chicago in Illinois. And we're happy to be a panelist here today. So thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, great. Thanks for being here. Joe.
All right. Thanks a lot for the invite, Vicki. My name is Joe Hossel. I run a company with my brother called Hossel Builders on California's Central Coast. We're a diversified building and development company. And we basically focus on projects that serve special populations, underserved housing needs. We grew up as a remodeler and a custom home builder. My brother still does a lot in in one of our retail division. But our main focus going forward is serving underserved populations in multifamily housing.
Great, thanks, Joe. Alex.
Hey everyone, my name is Alex Towery. My company is Towery Electric. We're in San Rafael, California, and we work on remodels, new construction, some service work, lighting control systems, and yeah, I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for having us, Vicki.
Thanks for being here. Ken.
Thanks, Vicki. Yeah, my name is Ken Sheldon, and we run Sheldon Builders basically out of Boulder, Colorado, and we focus on architect-driven. So we're not design build large whole house remodels and additions, and we've been in business here since 2001.
Thanks. Dolores.
There you go. Hi, Vicki. Thanks for having me. Dolores Davis. I own CG&S Design Build with my husband here in Austin, Texas. We're a second generation remodeling company that transformed into design build about 1994. I'm just really happy to be here as a panelist and hope we can all learn a whole lot from each other.
Great, thank you. Thank you, panelists, all of you. So I'm going to start, Dolores, with you with this first question. So how do you see this time of sheltering in place as an opportunity for your business? Like, you know, one of the things that we could look at this like I have to sort of hold in and just kind of grit and bear it. And one of the things that's, I think, unique about this, or one of the things I appreciate about this group of people, is that you all are looking at how do you treat this as an opportunity. So can you just speak to that? How are you looking at this as time as an opportunity for your business?
Well, I have a colleague who said to me one time, never waste a crisis. And so I just embrace the opportunity to take a look around in my company and to find out what are some things that we can be working on. And so I immediately made a list of, you know, much to their chagrin, I'm sure, of, you know, 5 to 10 things that as a company in our different divisions, we have an architectural design staff, the production staff, marketing, sales, and estimating. And so every one of us has an opportunity to start taking a little bit of a deeper dive on some areas. We're still working in Austin, but everything is slowed down dramatically. Everyone is working from home and they need something to kind of keep them busy. So we've just identified different areas. For me, it's all about how I can support the managers. And so we're looking at position agreements for our managers and how I can help them help their staff during this time.
Great, cool. By the way, for all of you wonder if why I'm looking down, thank you for Dolores for that. I'm tracking time for each of you, and good job. So Patrick, I'm going to let you speak to, and again, the question is, how are you looking at this time of shelter in place or slowdown as an opportunity for your business?
So kind of like Dolores there, I heard a long time ago, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So that kind of thing. So this started off as being a slow year for us. So even before the virus, we have carpenters on staff. So we're allowed to work here. We're considered essential business. So fortunately, we're working on a project where there's no residents in it. So I took the opportunity to teach. I'm taking my carpenters. I'm a carpenter by trade. So I'm teaching them some skill sets that they don't know, they're not familiar with, some complex framing techniques. It's an addition we're doing on this one house. So I'm teaching them some framing techniques. As far as sales, we're a small firm. As far as I do most of my own selling as well, Zoom was something I never knew about up until about 4 weeks ago. In the last 3 weeks, I've sold 2 jobs using Zoom. So we've gotten up to speed very quickly on that. So that's been very, very helpful. We're engaging with our clients a lot more through there, and just learning new skills. It's amazing. It's just when you're forced to do something, it's amazing how quickly you pay attention and start doing it. We're increasing our marketing spend. We've engaged a new marketing consulting firm, We've upped our social media. I do a lot of video blogging on our job sites, like once a week at least. I post them on Facebook, and they get a big following. And we also looking to put them on YouTube and whatnot. So I don't want to take too much time. I'm trying to be.
Oh, you're good. So you're really looking at all the parts of your business, and I heard this from Dolores too. Like you guys are looking at all the parts of your business and going, okay, like what are the opportunities here of different places to focus on? So
right, we're looking for any inefficiencies and trying to root them out right now. So.
Yeah, and training your team. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
Hi, Vicki.
Are you using that? How are you seeing this time as an opportunity? And I'm going to dig a little deeper with all of you on kind of like how you're doing that, but just maybe just speak to like sort of the mindset for yourself on this.
So I think we were very busy leading up to the virus, and it's almost a much needed slowdown to catch up on processes, have time to work on training for our employees. And, you know, I'm positive that we'll see a turnaround in this. And, you know, we're finding our resources to where we're still an essential business. So we are allowed to be working, but however, most of our job sites have shut down. So we're doing some service work, but we're taking the time to get a lot of our guys into training and advance their code knowledge, and as much work as they can do from home. We're trying to take advantage of that.
Nice. Thank you. Thanks. Frank.
I really liked this question. You know, it made me go back a little bit and think about that first week when everybody was just kind of trying to figure out what was going on, what things were going to look like. And as I think back to our team here, you know, one thing that was really important to us was just simple gratitude. It really was an opportunity to sit, be thankful for our company, to be thankful for the people that we have, to show appreciation through, you know, this really unpredictable time. And I think our team has really come together really well around that. For me as a person, I've always struggled with holding on to too much and being freer with letting go. And my father and I, who's my business partner, we kind of remind ourselves daily that our most important job right now is encouraging our team, is staying in touch with customers, positive attitude, keeping everybody else busy. Like it's not about what I have to do, it's about what I can give to others. And so I know Vicki's been talking with me about that for a while. So this is a great opportunity to lean into that in a very real, very short-term way. And our team has responded really well with that, which is great. As far as the business side of things, we have really doubled down on estimating. You know, there's been a lot of cross-training for projects that are far out. We've been taking people that have a little bit of downtime, cross-training them on estimating, pulling them in so that we can be doing more work now, hopefully in building our pipeline, you know, once this is released and as the fall comes in. You know, and then the last part, my fourth point was just taking time with people. I mean, our industry is relationship based, and you know, I have always felt that I'm always moving from point A to point B very quickly, and I'm catching myself a little bit more now and just seeing who's in front of me, taking time to interact with, whether that's a customer, whether that's vendors that are very valuable relationships to us and our team. And those four things I think have been a great opportunity this last month.
That's great. Thank you. I'm going to just interject something here. It's funny, the thing you're talking about taking the opportunity to really connect with people and stop and pause, because I have a tendency to be like a go get her done kind of person. And I have noticed that I've really appreciated that element of stopping and connecting and checking in at sort of this like, how you doing level, even in my emails, and it's felt really good. So yeah, I can totally resonate with that. Joe, how are you looking at this time as an opportunity?
You know, that I guess the old adage, and I guess a whole bunch of famous people have said, try not to waste a crisis. It sort of immediately popped up for us, and there's a number of, there's three things. One's like, there's just some practical opportunities that you can, you know, maybe there's a new market or something. For us, I've got a whole bunch of people in my family that homeschool, and they're really used to this whole lifestyle. And when we went, hey, you know, people, like, everybody's at home now. Not, you know, they're home working, they're homeschooling, they're home everything right now. And, you know, once people, like, you know, really the first week of it, because we had 4 kids, we weren't homeschooling, but immediately we got 4 kids that my wife's homeschooling. And, you know, they got the hang of it after just a few days. And so as a business, we're like, you know, I bet you it's going to be different after this. And I bet you people are going to be like, I probably don't have to come in to work every day anymore. And so we were playing around with this opportunity for ADUs, additional dwelling units, having factory built ADUs. You know, we'd already gotten a whole bunch of planning and things lined up for it. And so we said, you know, I think we're going to say, hey, how about that home office? This is probably not going to be so bad. So, you know, just as a practical opportunity, when people, you know, after 90 days of this, I think people are going to get used to being home. And not that they're never going to go to work again, but a whole bunch of people are going to be like, hey, it wouldn't be so bad to have a home office. So what it forced us to do is just to put this whole, we were going to launch this thing anyway, but it made us go, okay, let's do it quickly because we're going to run out of retail work here pretty soon. And so we're getting our brochure ready, and we're going to launch our factory-built ADU, factory-built home office program. And instead of taking 6 months or a year, it's going to take us about 6 weeks, and it'll be up and running and active. So it made us get our stuff together. The reconnecting with clientele, you know, getting back to relationships that really matter, the real ones that you've already got, and not trying to go, oh my goodness, where am I going to get my, you know, where am I going to go get it? Somebody wise once told me, and I think he heard it from you, Vicki, everybody you need to know is in the last 90 days of your emails. So, and that was Kevin Waldron. But anyhow, so reconnecting with clientele and just simple stuff, the newsletter, you know, the 10 best quotes you ever got, go ask them for work again. Go ask them for work again. And then third, just really rethinking our workforce, who absolutely is mission critical and must be there. And that is that question has a whole different answer today now, because how many of us are actually there now? And you know, construction takes staff, but the staff on the site versus the support staff, you know, for us it's it's really management, and there's only 2 or 3 people in the company that have to be there. So we're really rethinking the entire back office and where it must take place and how it must take place.
Cool. I'm going to ask you some more details about that as we go along. Thanks, Joe. That's great. Talk about accelerating production, right? All right, Ken.
So what we realized is that we have a shelter-in-place order here in Colorado, and yet construction is allowed to work. And so we really feel it's a blessing to be able to work and trying to navigate what this new way of doing construction looks like. And it's probably going to be like this for a long time. What was really fun is that I always have a backlog of a long list I keep of improvements for the company. But when this opportunity to get the funding from the PPP to allow me to pay my staff, my production staff, even if we're not doing billable jobs, then what I did is I had this big list and I sent it out. But then what was the most important was that I had a meeting earlier this week, and we got the production staff online, and they blew me away too with their ideas. They came up with a lot of great ideas that I hadn't thought of. And what was fun about it is, you know, during this time of uncertainty and not knowing jobs long range, what this does is it gives us as a team sort of a bridge of enthusiasm to focus on from now until we figure out what this new world looks like in the construction. And it's really fun that they felt the same way I did, in that there's a lot of improvements that they wanted to do, but they haven't felt like we've had the time to focus on it. In fact, if I tasked them with it, they probably would have begrudgingly done it because they already felt, I think, pretty overworked. So now is just such a special time to be able to kind of take this momentum and work together. And I am actually just thrilled by my team embracing it and really running with it. So, you know, we did a big kind of brainstorm session, and we have a big list of ideas, and now we need to kind of pick the areas that we can improve on that'll make the biggest difference in our company so that we can really come out of this better. So, yeah, I think that's it for me right now. I want to get into the specifics here sometime, and
Yeah.
I'm curious what other ideas other people have.
Yeah, we're gonna do that in just a second. So I want to give Alex an opportunity to answer this. Did you already answer this question, Alex?
I did, yes.
Oh, okay, great. All right, so well, let's tackle our next question, and this is where we're gonna. So thank you everybody for the answers that you have. I've just been sitting here listening to you, going, it is so cool the things that we can think about, and I appreciated all the things that you guys said about, like, you know, make lemons when there's lemonade. Nothing like a crisis to, you know, get you to cause change in your business, and those are all things that are true. You know, it's for anybody who knows me or worked with me very well, you'll know that I have this expression called before breakthrough is breakdown. And it is in the breakdown or the chaos or the thing that's not working that causes us to alter our behavior or change how we do things. And it really is, that's always generally the motivator for us, or a highly desired state that's unfulfilled. And so I like all of what you're saying about how do you thinking about all of the ways to really turn that around and lean into, as some of you said, you know, using this time. So so this is where I'm gonna ask you to do a little bit of a deeper dive in answering this question about what are you planning to do, or have you started to do around training with your team, improving systems, processes, and procedures, or organizing. And again, I'll go around and I'll ask each of you this question. I think this format we just did of my just choosing random people probably works. So we'll keep with that format of it. And this is where you, like, maybe just to speak to a little bit more specifically, what are the things that you're working on? And again, I'm going to give you 3 minutes, but if you feel like, you know, you really want to get to more of it, we'll just go more time. So don't worry about it. All right, so this time let's start with Patrick.
Okay,
Oh,
so
and Patrick, I'm sorry, before you begin, just one really quick thing for attendees, that I am tracking the questions in the chat, and I am going to address your questions with, so Dortha, my teammate, is tracking. If you're having any technical problems or anything, you can put something in the chat, she'll address that. But if you have questions for the panelists, I am tracking the questions, and at the when we're finished with them answering the questions I'm asking them, we will then ask your questions and go through what your questions are with each of them. So all right, go ahead. Sorry, Patrick.
So what was the question again?
I was just going to say I should probably ask the question again, right? So the question is, this is where we're just taking a bit of a deeper dive, right? And answering the questions, what are you planning to do, or have you started doing around training with your team, improving systems, processes, or procedures, or just general organization? So this is where, like, you all had just had an opportunity to speak to, in general, here's the things that I'm thinking about that we're doing. Maybe just speak more to how are you actually doing that? And I really want to focus on the engagement with your team part of it, because I think that's really where, that actually is my next question. How are you engaging with your team? But maybe just speak to that, like, how is that working? Like, I think it was you, Patrick, maybe, or Ken, who was talking about, you know, you gave your team this list, and then you know, they did this whole, you know, they had like all these other ideas. So, but it seems to be that the thing that I'm hearing from people is, how do I get people to work when they're not working? Or how do I get them to do stuff when they're like, home? And so, if there's any tips or anything, and this is to all of you, that you have about how you're navigating that, I think that would be helpful for people. But the general question is, what are you planning and have you started doing around training with your team, improving systems, processes, or procedures, or improving the organization of your business?
Okay, so as I mentioned, we're a smaller design build firm, and I do my own project management along with my own sales and estimating and whatnot. So typically we run about 6 jobs at a time. This year, because of the virus and whatnot, we're just doing 2 bigger jobs, and they're more complex. And my carpenters are not familiar with some of the framing systems we're doing. So because I have more time, I've been out in the field with them and teaching them some of the training them and whatnot, which they really appreciate a lot more than I thought they would. And it's been fun actually being out there working hand in hand with them side by side. And they really appreciate that a lot. And this is going to I see this paying dividends for me down the road when we get busier again. So that's one thing. Working with as I mentioned, my daughter works with me in the business, and hopefully one day she's planning to take over the business in about 10 or 12 years from now. So she's doing all our marketing and is working on sales training and whatnot. But we're working together on improving our marketing, our SEO and whatnot. But we're also looking to pivot into doing some handyman stuff as well, which is getting a little away from your question, so I'll back up. So working with our interior designer, who also does all our design work, just making sure all that's, basically, to answer your question in a nutshell, we're looking to see where any and all inefficiencies are within our business right now, and just squeeze as many of them out of the process, so that when we get back online and we get back to full speed ahead, so to speak, we can sell jobs quicker and produce them at a faster pace, both in the office and outside in the field, so that we can ramp back up and get our production going as quickly as possible again in a more efficient manner. That's what we're trying to do right now.
Okay, and can you just speak to the training that you're doing with them? Have you created like a formal like structure for that training? Have you like made a list of each person to go, here's the training I want to do with each person? Because you covered a lot of ground, which is great. You got a lot of things that you're working on. And I'm curious about this part, about how are you structuring that with them?
So basically, we've got 3 carpenters in the field right now. So and what it was some complex roofing, framing, carpentry roofing. So I basically took them all, put them right next to me, and showed them how to lay out rafters and how to cut the roofs and everything else. I showed them how to do it. I stepped away for half a day, let them do what they could, and then I came back in the morning, showed them a little bit more, let them work on that, and just try to teach them a little bit and let them run with it, so that they could learn, because if you teach them too much, then they're going to pay attention, in my humble opinion. So let them learn a little bit, let them go with it, pick up on their own, and just that's how I was doing it. No training manual or anything, but just teaching them by let them show them a little bit and let them go off and do it on themselves and practice on their own, so that they can learn from their own mistakes. Because I find that they learn better, and them lessons tend to stick better in the long term.
Nice. Okay. One of the things when you talk about like that people can, there's only so much they can absorb. It is like a scientific thing about how our brains work, that we remember information in packets of 3, 5s, and 7s. And considering that like the general populace stress level is way up, it actually distracts us even more, makes us less able to sort of comprehend or retain stuff. So sticking with 3 things is probably that's a good strategy. Yeah, thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe, let me ask the question again. So the question is, what are you planning and have you started doing in your business that is around training with your team, improving systems, processes, or procedures, and organizing? And I know that you shared with us a little bit ago about the smaller workspace units, but maybe if you can speak a little bit more to, because I know that when you and I talked, you talked about some stuff that you're doing with your team that I think is really cool. So.
So when we were forced to think about critical staff only, and who is it that actually has to show up? I guess there's this mantra, hey, what do we deliver on time, we deliver on budget, and we deliver just like we told them we were going to, on quality. And so I started to write down in each one of those areas, how were we still, with nobody really showing up except my superintendent, how we were going to deliver on time. And when it really ended up sort of leveraging the technology that we had. Instead of multiple people having to show up and inspect and say, hey, are you actually getting your job done? It made me think, hey, are we actually just using our software to ensure the schedule is written properly and updated every day so that anybody could check at any time? We use a platform called Co-Construct, and the point is to communicate effectively without having to make a whole bunch of phone calls or emails. And so when we had to start answering that question, we're like, my gosh, we just have to actually go do our job, and we have to just actually use our software for what it was made for. And so I thought, well, do we know what it's capable of? Do people know really how to use it? And so really what that did for us was, instead of me thinking, oh, well, we'll get this one day, and boy, I wish they would show up for the webinars, it made me go, hey, it's at 12:30 Wednesday, it's mandatory. You don't have an option. We don't have an option anymore. And it made me really think, gosh, now somebody's forcing us to boil the staff down to critical only. And that question really is for all of our business owners, that they really should be thinking, gosh, how do I get this done with the fewest resources in the most efficient manner possible? And so as we started sort of jumping into this training, it really just made me think, this is what we should have been doing all along. And every time when we make a leap forward, leveraging technology inside of our business, it pays off multiple times. And so when we really examined, hey, go do the software training. And it's not optional anymore. You've got to do it, because you can't show up. You can't just go visit the job anymore. It's not possible. So use the software, plan ahead, get a drawing done for the tile guy instead of watch him do it, 3 times and tell him, he's making a mistake. So that really just made us go, we could do this from anywhere now. And in the midst of this, we actually did open a branch up in Santa Rosa, which is close to a couple of you guys there. And it actually wasn't, it ended up not being that difficult to get up and running, because we were already being forced to run our local jobs without actually being there.
Remotely, yeah.
Yeah, and as we thought about, hey, how do I start this branch 6 or 7 hours away? We said, hey, why can't we do this for the jobs that are just 5 or 10 minutes away?
Yeah.
So
I love all of that. And one of the things that when you and I first spoke, you actually, when I reached out to Joe, and I had posted something on Facebook. We hadn't talked in a long time, and he reached back out to me via email, and he attached this document, and he said, gosh, I've been really thinking about what's fundamentally our job in construction is on time, on budget, as promised. And so I think that where you just filled in a bunch of details, but I want to just share with people, the first place that Joe had this whole outline that he sent me was, we're just looking at how do we be better at managing those 3 critical elements from the top down versus the bottom up, and how do we, and that I think that was, am I correct? That was where you started with your, okay, let's think about on time, on budget as promised, how can we improve in doing each of those things?
Yeah, and you know what was amazing? It was an outline that I was going to use for a staff meeting, and we call it our all hands meeting. And so everybody comes from wherever they live, and they come to our office on Friday, every other Friday morning at 7. And you know, those are expensive meetings. If you get, you know, 10 or 20 people, and everybody's there for an hour, hour and a half, they get expensive. And so this was the first all hands meeting we did on Microsoft Teams. And guess what? It worked. And everybody, I mean, even the guy staying home with his sick kids attended the all hands meeting. And that alone, you're like, my goodness, there's actually no excuse anymore. You can just mute, stop the video, and you can still participate in that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And anyhow, so doing that outline, it was 3 pages, but it was a brief synopsis of how simple you can break down the whole entire business. That's our job: on time, on budget, as promised. And so much of it is possible way more effectively via technology. Anyhow, that's really turned in, honestly, to the biggest opportunity for us, is to say, you know, with my really small band of dedicated folks here, I can get what I need to do with the bodies that have to be here in Santa Maria. And then anybody with a connection anywhere can actually do the rest of it for us.
Yeah.
So, and that's, I don't know, that's a much larger conversation, but
yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe. Frank.
Well, let's see. I think the first item, or I guess I'll start bottom going up, organizing. You know, the first week, I think we organized everything. We organized everything we could multiple times. You know, and then as we transitioned into the training stuff, the training items that we addressed first were all the stuff that Joe has just been talking about. You know, Zoom meetings, being able to do virtual meetings with customers, getting files onto Dropbox so that everybody could have access from home. Starting to look at tools like DocuSign, so that way there could be a formal process for acceptance and you know, sign-offs with customers as that came through. So the technology side of that, those were the, I guess, I don't want to say the easy things, but the things that we were forced to do relatively quickly. Then we stepped into really looking at the systems that we have in place. And like Ken said, he keeps a list of all the things that you'd love to get to that you never have time for, and you just kind of keep that running list. So the other part that I think was a challenge as we went from week 1 into week 2 was, you know, the people started recognizing we're going to slow down. And I think acknowledging that with everybody was really helpful. Being able to talk with people, look, it's okay. I understand. You're going to come to me and say, I don't have anything to do. You know, what can I do? So then we really tried to get ahead of that, you know, communicating with our team of staying ahead. What's your schedule this next week? What do you have coming up? Do you have a hole so that we can plan ahead and be ready, whether that's estimating, whether that's some of these other items on the list that we haven't had a chance to get to. So that way everybody, number one, it's okay to do that. That's going to happen. And 2, keeping everybody productive and encouraged. The things that we looked at that we never really had a chance were, you know, sales process. We had a lot of, the term I've heard used a lot is tribal knowledge. You know, this is how we do it, but nothing was written down. And so we're capturing that now. We went through an exercise last week or last year. Thank you, Tim. And we captured all that on paper, but we never translated it over. And so we're taking time now to look back at that, get it written down in a way to where we can present it to the team so that there's a lot of clarity around how we do things as a company, rather than everybody coming and saying, how do we do this? How should I answer this? It puts us all on the same page. So systems wise, those are things that we've started moving into and that we will continue to move into, you know, in the next period of time. And as far as the training part goes, I don't think we've really had formal training, but it's more conversations. You know, people that are having challenges with specific technologies, you know, with specific customers. Again, I think it comes back to having a little bit more time to spend with people in conversation rather than feeling it needs to be a short, succinct, kind of rushed conversation.
Nice. Thanks, Frank. I'm just, as I'm listening to you and to the other panelists so far, one of the things that I am hearing is when we think about construction projects, and the most successful projects are the ones that have a lot of planning at the front end, so that a lot of planning at the front end so that you're not having to do triage throughout the project. Like that thing of spending the time at the front end really pays off to having a project have the greatest opportunity for being on time, on budget, as promised. And so it's interesting that it's like, maybe this is part of the opportunity that's here for all of us as business owners, is to really give more thought to that thing of, we don't have time for it. But the truth is, when you make the time for it, it actually takes less time to finish and to do and to execute at the back end. So I'm just kind of hearing that, and I just wanted to say that out loud, because I think that is absolutely one of the opportunities here for us, is to think about how do we approach doing projects or doing project management. So,
and just to compliment on that, I mean, really starting, because the life cycle of a lot of projects is long. And usually by the time you get to the end and you realize these were corrections that we could have done earlier, you know, it's just capturing that whole circle. And one of the guys in our office, I love when he says, well, we don't have time to do it now, but we will have time to do it twice later if we don't do it right now. So
yeah.
I love that saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I think I'm going to have to go back through this recording and read all and write down all of these little fun sayings that you guys have. It's awesome. All right, Dolores, how about you? And again, the question is, what are you planning to do, or have you begun doing, around training with your team, improving systems, processes, and procedures, and or organizing?
Well, a lot of the same things that these guys are doing, for sure. Our company is still working, so we're still designing, we're still building. So people don't have a lot of extra time. The person has a lot of extra time is me. And so I, and the sales staff has a lot of extra time. So some of the things that I've been working on is to develop the protocol for virtual meetings, so that we're all doing it the same way and not all scattered around. Some people are doing it one way, or with virtual GoToMeetings or Zoom or Teams or whatever. So there's a lot of, and we're all doing it based on necessity. So I'm writing the protocol for that. We're also writing the protocol for virtual sales meetings, so that some people, you know, although it's difficult, they still want to meet. They're still interested in what's that project that's going to be down the road. So we're, you know, how we set up those first meetings, how we set up first face-to-face, which is, you know, doing virtual tours throughout their house. Once we sell a design contract, the first thing that we do is sit down with the homeowner and do programming and go measure a house. Well, how do you do that? So we're working on setting those kinds of protocols for that. One of the biggest things we're doing is setting up new safety protocols for our construction crews. I don't think the virus is going to go away anytime soon. And so we just wanted to make sure that this is the way we provide a safe work for our employees, our carpenters, and the subcontractors, and the safety for our homeowners. So we're working at, what does that look like? Take a lot of the rules that are already in place in our area and adapting those into it. And then the other thing is that I'm really kind of concerned about what the economy is going to look like after this is all kind of, we're all back to work and functioning somewhat. And so I've been looking at budgets for the year. What does a 3-month, 6-month, 12-month budget look like? And how do we make sure that we have a consistent cash flow to allow us to continue to work, and but not, you know, not go out of business, I guess. And so those are the things that I've been working on. We're re-racking marketing. I don't think that now is the time to stop marketing at all. But how do we, I think that it's been a good opportunity to step back into our client-based marketing, job site marketing, a lot of the social media, people are still interested in doing projects. They've been in their homes. They know exactly what they like and don't like about them. And I just want to be available and ready to take that kind of, all those new projects on.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Dolores. I really paused as I was listening to you talk about you developing a system around sales that will allow you to do more things virtually. You know, I live here in Northern California in the Bay Area, and traffic is epic and generally in the Bay Area. And I know it's really gotten very heavy there in Austin as well. And I've been thinking about, like, how can we, and you're all speaking to how can we be more efficient, but I like that you're working on a sales process that has you be able to be engaging, right? You're not going to completely eliminate that person to person, but how do you be more efficient at that so that you're having to be on the road less? So I like that. It's awesome.
Great.
Thanks. Yeah. So Alex, would you answer this question next? And again, the question is, how are you planning and or have you started doing around training with your team, improving systems, processes, and procedures, and organizing?
Okay, thanks, Vicki. Like we're doing today on Zoom, one of the first things we got everybody trained on yesterday was a full company meeting on Zoom, which was great to connect with everybody. And you know, I love the idea, like Joe's doing, having future company meetings through software. As soon as we first saw the slowdown coming, I reached out to Tesla, who got a couple of online training opportunities, and we registered all of our employees with this, with their training. And that's something, give our guys an opportunity to read up on and get certified. I reached out to another rep that we work with at Lutron, and they have some great online courses they offer as well. So some of our guys are excited about getting updated on the latest lighting control and some of the new systems they're offering. So it gives them something to do at home, and they can't get out to the job sites. Currently, we have one job site that's still open. That was a result of the fire, and then we're just doing some emergency calls at the moment, but got a lot of time to catch up on a lot of these items. For organizing, haven't done it yet, but I plan on getting everyone to completely unload their company trucks, take everything out, and organize it to be more efficient. So take that time to do a real good once over and get all the maintenance done and items that have been putting off. At the office, it's given me time to catch up on reports, a lot of the reports for forecasting for the future, to see you know, our historical records and you know, forecasting where we're going with today's climate. You know, yeah, I'm still looking for other training opportunities. I think there's going to be more time with people at home. So I've been reaching out. I enjoy reaching out with the guys and giving them a call just to see how they're doing with their families and connecting with them. And most of our employees have kids and they're homeschooling, and so all same as most of us. A lot of people going through the same thing, but yeah, we've been able to stay pretty productive. We're doing a lot of estimating at the time being, and you know, my estimator, I'm communicating with him from home so he can be estimating on projects, and I think we're going to start going towards Zoom meetings as well for the time being. So.
Thank you. Yeah, Alex, can you also speak to what you did in terms of food delivery and being of service during this time? Because I thought that was amazing, and I think that other people would appreciate hearing what you did, and
Sure.
maybe get some ideas for themselves. Because one of the things that I know has been a fairly consistent thing for a lot of people is, what can I do to help? And you got into action about that. So would you just share with people what you did?
Sure, thank you. So at the start of this, when the shelter in places first came about, we heard one of the things people were lacking were the 65 and older crowd, or people who were sick with immune systems weren't able to get groceries delivered to them, and they had concerns about how they were going to get them safely and, you know, not have any virus intact. And so I knew that we still had some N95 masks, and we had gloves, and I knew we had guys who were out of work, and I wanted to keep guys going on payroll as long as possible. People, they even wanted to volunteer as well, but so we reached out to our clients and made a post on our Facebook to see if anybody needed help getting groceries delivered to their house. And so we had a really great response. We had a lot of people who said, you know, this is such a needed service. We can't reach Safeway or Instacart. And so our guys got their gloves on and put the masks on, and they go out and do some grocery shopping and go make deliveries. And it's been a nice opportunity for us to connect with the community.
Yeah, and it's gotten, so thank you, Alex, and it's gotten a very positive response from the community as well. People have really appreciated it. Because like you said, you know, Safeway or Whole Foods or, you know, whatever, like their delivery service said we're at capacity. And so you showed up in a way that really served people. So thank you.
Well,
all right, Ken, it's your turn. And the question again is, what are you planning or have you begun doing around training with your team, building better systems, processes, and or organizing?
So so most of our team is still working almost at capacity, but we know that's going to be coming to an end here soon, just with ongoing projects. So what we're doing is we're getting prepared for the PPP funding to kick in so we can start to use that money. And I guess going back to what I said earlier is that I really engaged my team for their ideas. And what I realized is that each one of them has their own focus on what they believe that will help them from their perspective in the company, because they do different things. They're all project managers, but they do it in a different way and they have a different focus. And so that's what's really fun is to get them set up in that. So I have one who, he used to do larger projects, and now he's been not wanting to work quite as much and he wants to work on shorter projects. So over the past year and a half, we've sort of slowly begun rolling out our small projects, handyman, and home maintenance division. And he loves that because for him, it's a nice mental break from what he used to do. And what this does is it gives us a chance to really kind of bulk up our processes in that. So what we've done is we're going to have, with each of these project managers, we're going to have separate meetings so we can kind of dive into their own focus. So from his standpoint, he really wants to work on creating a better process and maybe creating for small projects. If it's handyman, a few days work or one day work, it's easy, but we don't have a very short contract that he can just sign and fill out on the spot and just get to work for something like that. So there's a lot of little steps that we want to do that really will just make that more clear and easier for him to kind of take that division and run with it. He also, in terms of the organization, we all have ideas, but we have our supplies and tool storage area is in badly need of thorough organization and improved lighting. And it's actually about a week's worth of work for one person. So he's going to take that on because it's here close to where he lives. And everybody's excited about that. And he actually loves organization. So to be able to take his skills and make it better than it ever was is something he's actually excited about, and it'll help everybody out. And I have another project manager who he loves. So our cloud-based project management platform is Buildertrend that we use for project management. And of course, now it's more valuable than ever. We can all see that if you're not using that, some sort of a cloud-based project management software, I urge anyone to find one, try one, get up to speed on it. But clearly it's going to be very valuable for all of us going forward. So he always has a lot of ideas for organizing it. So what this time will do will allow, Buildertrend offers free training for anybody who has it. So whether it's my project managers or clients. So he's going to start with training just to get more familiar with parts of it that we don't use. Most of us don't utilize all the capabilities of this. So he's going to get more familiar with it and figure out, bring ideas to me for some areas of improvement that we could really use. So he's off and running on that, or he will be. He's thinking about it, I should say, right now. And then I have another project manager who, he was an English major, and he's very creative with words, and he loves to write. And so a natural fit there is bulking up our website. There's a bunch of sort of missing information and areas we need to update. And when I brought it up to him, he said, wow, I can't believe I'm going to actually get paid for writing that I went to school with. I've never been paid for that before.
Have fun.
So,
Nice. So
so
you're tapping into
yeah,
some of people's natural skills.
exactly.
How to have them work on projects. That's awesome. That's great.
Well, and I realized that naturally people are going to be a little resistant if they don't quite understand the value of it. But in this case, when you really bring out what they see as a need and it directly impacts their job and they're enthusiastic about it, it's easier to get their engagement in it and to move forward with it.
Yeah.
It's much better.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. You guys had such amazing answers. That was very cool. So I'm going to go to the next question on here, which is, are there ways that you're staying connected with your teams during this time? And you don't all have to answer this, so I'm going to let you guys, like, if there's particular ways that you're staying engaged. And I'm going to give a little bit of background to this because this has been interesting during this past 4 weeks. I have talked to business owners, I've talked to managers, I've talked to employees, and I've been asking this question about how are you staying connected with your team, and for employees, like, what do you feel has been useful communication, or like, you know, are you feeling like you're getting enough communication? And in a lot of cases, I'm hearing from people that they would like more communication, and that they're, you know, because there's a little bit of like, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what's going on, right? And as business owners and leaders, we're like making these plans, right? And how are we staying connected with them to let them at least know, hey, I've got a plan. And I know for a number of you that, you know, you're doing something on that front. So I'm interested to hear, like, what kind of, do you have like some routine about how you're keeping them updated, you're communicating with them, you're staying connected with them? And I know that you just spoke a lot about the projects and what you're doing with them on projects and so on, but I want to just really focus on this one piece, which is, what are there ways, and again, not everybody has to answer this question, maybe just raise your hand if you have an answer to this, but are there ways that you're staying connected with your team just for the purpose of keeping them informed and updated and staying connected with them so that they feel like, even if they're on unemployment or whatever, so that they're still in the loop? So anybody want to volunteer to jump in and answer that question? Dolores, go ahead.
I write I write a weekly newsletter to them. I usually send it out on a Friday after we work. This is our 3rd week of shelter in place, and so it's can be as much as just letting people know where we are with our loan, or what kind of projects we are selling, or where we are with our work. Just kind of just a real intimate, this is what we're doing, this is how we're feeling, you know, and just try to do it really simple, 1 page. I also have weekly team meetings with the managers. They're the kind of boots on ground, so they're checking in with all the employees and seeing where they are. I do one-on-one meetings with managers as well, so that I can find out where their needs are. I've been really enjoying calling an employee, 2 or 3 employees a day, people that I don't work with on a, you know, a real intimate level, but I know and I miss seeing them. So I'll just call them up and ask them how they're doing. And, you know, we don't talk about work. We talk about how they're feeling, or they're lonely at home, working at home, or, you know, whatever it is, or they're scared, or just really just kind of meet people where they're at and just listen to them. I send like food to them, like cookies or something like that, you know, just as a surprise, so that they just, like, you know, I'm here and you're there and we're still connected. So really it's just about just trying to pick up the phone. I do the FaceTime or Teams meetings, so we're looking at each other. I rarely text them or email them. I just want to have like this human connection.
Nice. That's great, Dolores. And yeah, there's so much of what you just said that's so rich. Because I really appreciate what you said about just having a conversation that's just a check-in, like, how are you doing? And we're not used to doing that with people, right? Especially people that we work with. So it's kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier in this conversation about how do we, are we slowing and just connecting? And because there's just a lot of low level and sometimes high level angst for everybody. And so that's great. I like your newsletter idea. Anybody else have anything that you're doing that you want to share about how you're staying connected or in communication with your team? Yeah, Joe, go ahead.
So Dolores, those are all just really terrific suggestions of what you're doing. I think we get into I don't know, sort of, it's not really survival mode, but it's like, hey, I have something to do now mode. You know, I got something to fix. And then it all gets sort of very mechanical and give me a problem, I'll solve it. And I think that we do, I mean, I very honestly, you know, I mean, I forget to go, oh yeah, that's a real human over there. And I should ask them how they're doing, not just, are we on time, on budget, as promised. So, but one thing that I have, sort of just mandating that we use this technology. I mean, the text and phone were fine, but the folks, but yeah, being able to see them and just experiencing them, you know, their presence, whatever. I mean, from hundreds of miles away. I mean, I'm forced to do it with our folks in Santa Rosa. And then actually just meeting more often and not changing the time because I'm the owner. Oh, I can't make it today. Oh, can we do it at 11 instead of, can you change your day for me because I'm really important and really busy? I think that's something I've had to pay more attention to is to say, look, we set it for 9, even though you own the joint, just show up at 9, okay? Just like you said, don't expect everybody else to switch around because you're the important guy here. So, so communicating more and sticking to what I told them I was going to do, and really just being there to say, hey, how can I, you know, what is it that I can do to support you more? Because I feel like my job is really communicating right now. You know, replacing all those contracts that went away is an important one, but also just really being the one that's communicating with the outside world. And so, and I guess I've really just focused on sticking to when I said I was going to do it, because I had this horrible habit of, hey, I'm the owner. I've got really important stuff to do. You guys can just wait 15 minutes for me. And then making them use Microsoft Teams and share your screen, share the video. Don't be scared to do it. And you know what's awesome? We're solving technical framing issues, you know, from 375 miles away in seconds, instead of, hey, can I take a look at that on Friday when you're up, Joe? So, and we could have done that with FaceTime or just, you know, send a picture many, many years ago. But now it's like, wow, I don't have an option. We're gonna have to use technology. So anyhow, that's
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. I really appreciated what you're both saying in terms of that whole being accountable to your team as well, and that our teams are looking to us for leadership now more than ever, and that sense of consistency and direction and leadership. And the thing about showing up when you said you were going to show up, you know, I'm in the middle of teaching this this course called Build Your Dream Team, and it's one of the things that we talk about in the courses. You know, if you want your team to produce more consistent results, start keeping your word and doing what you say you're going to do, and show up when you say you're going to show up. If you have a meeting scheduled every Thursday at 10 o'clock, you're at that meeting every Thursday at 10 o'clock. It's not like, as you say, and I just appreciate your like honesty of like, we don't get to as leaders go, well, I'm more important, so you can wait for me. That consistency and that doing that builds huge trust, and as like an assurance right now for people when they need assurance from us as leaders to know what they can count on, and that there's there, you know, like some routine is good right now. So yeah, so I appreciate what you both said, and yeah, thanks for that. Ken, yeah, go ahead.
So, so I've made a point of kind of reaching out, kind of like what you guys have touched on, Dolores, you know, reaching out just to find out how they're doing. And in order to do that, I've had to spend a little more time at it. I think it's kind of nice I've noticed my production staff is a little pleasantly surprised that I'm spending more time asking them about them. And some of them are a little reluctant, so I have to kind of pull it out slowly. But some of the things I've been doing is I'll go to their job sites, and we're outside during nice weather, and we have lunch together at a very safe distance. But it really gives me a chance in that kind of relaxed time, instead of talking about the specific work, just to find out about their families and see what's going on in their life. And then at the same time, then I can also talk about all the things that I'm working on to keep us moving forward in terms of communication with ongoing projects that are in the future, and the PPP loan and ideas. But it's kind of intuitive, I think, that, you know, the team members are getting nervous, and we really need to, you're right, act as a kind of a guiding force to figure out what's going on, maybe address any concerns, and just let them know that we're all looking at this, and I'm looking at this to keep the team moving forward.
I think you're muted, Vicki.
Sorry, thank you. I like that whole like safe distance lunch thing. Like, you know, if you can, if you're in a place in a way that you can do that, I think that's awesome. So cool. Anybody else? And it's not a requirement to answer this question. If you have nothing more to add than what you've already added, it's all cool. But I want to give everyone an opportunity if there's something else you want to say. Okay, I'm going to go to my last question, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. My last question is this for each of you. Where are you finding it most helpful in support? Where are you finding the most help and support for you as a business owner right now? Like what is it, what are you finding is helping you the most? What do you wish you had more support in? Like, because, you know, as leaders, we're the ones that have to be the one to, you know, this is what we've just been talking about, right? Like to pave the way, and to, you know, to show the team that, you know, we've got a plan and we've got it handled, and, you know, keep in communication and be a leader, and be the one that lets people have a sense of, you know, peace and ease in their interaction with us. And yet there's this other piece, which is us as human beings, that how do we find that support for ourselves? And I'm just curious, what are, you know, is there something that you're doing that is helping you feel like you're getting the support that you would like and need right now as a leader and a business owner, that you have found has been helpful for you and helping you get support right now? Alex, go ahead.
Thanks, Vicki. I think for me, the biggest thing that's been helpful is kind of like what we're doing today, which is communicating with all the other small business owners. You know, whether just sharing information, I've been given so much information that's been helpful to me, hearing what everyone else is doing and passing that along as well. And to me, that's been keeping me going. So mainly for me.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Frank, and then we'll do Patrick.
Great answer, Alex. I totally agree with you. I think staying connected with friends, peers in the industry beyond, it's too easy to kind of close ourselves off a little bit, and stay in our bubble and not really be out there connecting and knowing what's going on. And that goes with just friends and family too. I think more time with family is a great during this time period as well. Just to, again, the reminder that this is what's real, this is what is important. But this question was actually a harder one for me because I'm very much a task guy. Like, give me the list, I will just continue to go through it, and as stuff gets added on. So, actually seeking out the support, or where are those areas, I had to think about that a little bit more. And I think just staying in communication with people, dialoguing, interacting, and like Dolores said in her interaction, I mean, just really, and Joe touched on it too, you know, being present with the person that is in front of you, and just interacting with them on the human level is great.
I think you're muted, Vicki.
Sorry, I was saying thanks. That's great. And I said Patrick, and then we'll do Joe.
Thank you. So the online forums have been very helpful. Staying connected with other contractors has been very helpful, as Alex had mentioned earlier. Staying grounded with my family is helpful. Watching the webinars that we put on by you, Vicki, has been helpful, and by others. There's so many people putting on so many webinars. You could watch 1 or 2 every single day if you wanted. So I've been inundated with that, watching webinars on the SBA loans and just how to survive through this turbulent times and whatnot. But just staying grounded with other contractors through the community that we're connected with through them. And as Frank had just said, just making more time for people, and just slowing it down a bit, and just taking time for people, and just thinking about what's more important in life. It's not all about business all the time. So I agree 100% with you, Frank, there on that one. So thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Joe.
All right, well, business-wise, the most helpful stuff for sure has been industry-specific webinar stuff. And I think some of the follow-up material that's produced, where they say, hey, here's a summary, that's been really helpful as well. But we're definitely flooded by tons of opportunities to see what's going on in the coronavirus world in business now. But the ones that, by the Home Builders Association, by NARI, by the Contractors Association, the ones that hit home the most are really the most productive learning experiences for me. And then I would say when your critical software that you're using too, the trainings that those folks are offering now, because I mean, we've gotten things, a number of things from Co-Construct that have been a huge help for our team. And so if they haven't reached out already, I would say, check out if your critical software that you use in your business has got anything out there right now. On the personal side, my family, I've got a whole bunch of siblings. We've had a tradition for many years that whoever still sort of lives in town here, we get together with my folks every Tuesday evening, and we say the rosary together. And that's always been an awesome tradition. And my folks who are isolated right now, they really miss that. And so last week, we had families from all over the country do a Zoom meeting. And instead of just, one person on camera and to everybody else, it was the entire family crowded on the couch or around the dining table. And, there's eight people on different screens, and the audio kind of sucks. It was a little frustrating. There was babies crying in the background and stuff, but it was probably one of the most powerful family events we've ever had. And again, this whole change and people's openness to really leverage technology to get the job done. It's, and it actually does a better job, because my sister in Tennessee and my brother in Boulder, they were there with us this time. And, it was incredible. It was incredible. And I don't know. I mean, I just feel like the opportunities are just like, there's just so many of them and they're all around us. And, you know, taking the, I don't know, you know, just the reality of our day and then going, gosh, how can technology, how can it make it better? How can it make it better? I mean, just on a very personal and very, on a very personal level, technology, now the family does the rosary from all over the country together on Tuesday night. And it's, you know, it's like a mind-blowing tradition now. It's awesome.
Nice.
It's awesome.
Very cool. Very cool. Frank, you wanted to add? Thank you, Joe. Thank you. And thanks for sharing something that was so personal. And, you know, we a lot of times don't want to talk about our faith. And I'm going to, when Frank's done, I'm going to share my answer to this question. I really, I appreciate you being willing to reveal who you are. And you've all done that. And so thank you. I think it's awesome. Frank, go ahead.
I was just giving Joe the thumbs up. So amen and thank you.
Yeah, nice, nice. Well, I will tell you that for me, a couple of things that have really made a difference. Three things. One that you guys have all talked about is staying connected into and getting support from the professional community I'm a part of. I belong to a mastermind group, and instead of meeting once a month, we've kind of met, like we've talked to each other 3 times in the last 4 weeks. And that's been super helpful, and I have felt very supportive, and people have just been amazing. The other thing for me is my husband and I have made this agreement with each other where we will sit down, and this kind of came out of like sort of this like really cranky moment that we had a couple of weeks ago where we just sat down the next morning and went, okay, each of us is going to take however long and just download on what's going on for us. Like, what's all the stuff rattling between our 2 ears? What are we worried about? What are we pissed off about? So on and so forth. And it was great. And it was amazing. And the agreement was the other person doesn't have to do anything with it, doesn't have to respond, doesn't have to fix it, doesn't have to try to, you know, counter, like, you know, show that it can be like nothing. Like our job was to just listen to each other. And it was huge. And we've done it again since then. And it's, that was amazing because it was just a place where, for me, that I got to just be and just spew everything that had been going on between my 2 ears for a while. So that for me has been really helpful. And I will say the third thing for me is I have a spiritual practice where I read and I journal every morning. And it has been huge for me in just being a grounding and helping me like sort of just do a reset every morning for, okay, like what's my intention for the day, and who do I want to be in the world, and how can I serve what I'm here to be doing in the world and in this lifetime. So for me, those things have really made a big difference and have helped a lot. So thank you guys. You guys have been amazing. For all of those of you who have listening, I think you can appreciate that this group of people they're up to some amazing things, and I really appreciate everything that you guys have shared. We have questions that have come up into the chat, and I'm going to go through these and ask these questions one of them at a time. Some of them are just comments. So Bill Essert said, great sharing. I love the varied thoughts and ideas from all. Anyone interested in discussing the aging in place market offline? So I don't know if you got any answers to that, Bill Essert, but maybe just by show of hands, any of the panelists interested in having that conversation, and then people can reach out to you. Okay, yeah. So Patrick said yes. So Bill, you might reach out to Patrick afterwards. We will be sending out an email with a link to this recording afterwards, and we'll have at the bottom of that the contact information for all the panelists if you want to, or their name and websites if you want to reach out to them. And then David asked if this Zoom recording would be, meeting would be recorded, if this webinar would be recorded. Yes, and it'll get emailed to you. Ken said the introductions went by so fast. Oh, he wanted the panelist's name. Dortha provided that on there, so it's in the chat. And then Ricardo said, many organizations are moving to more adaptation of virtually selling. What steps have you taken in this regard, and how will it continue after the crisis ends? So I know some of you have spoken to this, but I think like Dolores, I think you were talking about like you're writing up a more virtual sales process. But if any of the rest of you have anything to add to that, does anyone want to speak to what you're doing in terms of creating a more virtual sales process? Because as we've all talked about, you know, all of you have said that this isn't ending tomorrow. And if we don't keep marketing and selling, then there's going to be this big gap at some point in the future. You know, when the work that you had to stop finishes. So anybody have anything that you want to, just by show of hands? Little, yeah, Patrick.
Just like I said in the beginning, 4 weeks ago, I didn't know what Zoom is. And in the last 3 weeks, we've sold 2 jobs. So we're definitely going to be using Zoom going forward when all this gets back to whatever the new normal will be after all this settles down. So yeah, we're going to be rewriting our sales process. I mean, you know, our geographic market goes out about 30 to 40 minutes drive. So I was just talking to a fellow remodeler this morning, and I'm thinking, why do we have to drive 30 or 40 minutes to have an initial appointment? We can do that on a Zoom call to see if they're qualified or not to be a customer of ours, or we're qualified enough to be a customer or contractor for them. We could do all that in initial meeting on the Zoom call, save a lot of time, because each appointment is like 2.5 or 3 hours when you factor in the drive time. So all that can be achieved on the phone call or a Zoom call in 45 minutes to an hour. It seems illogical to leave my conference room. So
well, and now the whole thing of being able to do it face to face, right? It's not quite as impersonal as, yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
we've had people, they walk around the whole house with their camera on their phone. I mean, it's the same thing. It's almost the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's just really great. So thanks for the opportunity.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ken.
So I'm also part of Remodelers Advantage, and they had something last week. It was 2 days called Build Aid. And I know they have it recorded. And so I bet if you reach out to Remodelers Advantage, you can have access to some of the events in there. They had some specifically on this. There are people that are already have a lot of great ideas for how you can do virtual sales. So that would just be a resource to go try.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Frank and then Jeff.
I actually have a question for you fine people. You know, one of the conversations we've been having with our design team is, I mean, if you present a design, a layout for a kitchen on the computer, people can take screenshots. So I'm just curious if anybody has had any thought into, I guess, protecting against that, or I know in this period of time, it's just we're making information available to try and make the process easier. Just curious if anybody has had some experience with that.
It doesn't look like we got anybody in. Oh, Patrick, go ahead.
So we've done 2 presentations so far. We've sold the design retainers. It's always a concern that they're going to 3 presentations with designs. We're always worried that they're going to steal the design, of course. But you know, what can you do right now? We're forced to sell like this at the moment. But you just gotta trust people's integrity that they won't take it and run with it, you know. But we're still trying to figure out the new way we're going to be doing things as we get down the road, you know. But it's a concern, because it's always a concern that somebody's going to take a picture of your work and take it down the road, you know.
Yeah.
So it's something to be wary of, yeah.
And
sure.
that's true when you do it in person as well, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
when you present and you know, present somebody with a design or what, particularly a bid, but I hear what you're saying, Frank, because they don't get the design until they've actually, you know, paid something for it.
Yeah.
But one thing that you might think about is if you're doing this via Zoom, you could make it so that people can't actually, record the session. So there's, you know, maybe some things that you can do around that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll follow up, Patrick, and I agree with you. I think, you know, your point is there just needs to be a lot of trust in this right now too. I mean, you have to assume the best. I mean, everybody's coming from a good position. trustworthy position. And you know, I've heard our design team, when they're meeting with people remotely and doing screen shares to show designs and three-dimensional renderings of what things are going to look like, the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. So I think it's looking at the overall process where this technology can be leveraged to improve the process and the communication. There are still certain things in our industry where you have to do it in person. You have to get a tape measure out to a job site and do that. But I think more and more people are getting comfortable with using this tool moving forward.
Great, thank you. Joe, go ahead. And then I'm going to go to the next question.
Yeah, so I think you know, one of the things that I think I'll probably harp on this for many years to come. One of the things technology lets us do, and why so many tech firms have become just unbelievably successful, is that it allows you to let your clients hit the easy button at the risk that one of them is going to steal your stuff, but you get to be out in front with the one with the easy button. And you're like, well, how do you buy from me? Hey, it's simple. We got our estimating processes templated so that I can ask you 5 intelligent questions and I can produce an estimate for your custom home instantly. It's a ballpark because I'm making a bunch of assumptions, but I can, you know, like there's intelligent stuff I can do there. You can do this meeting with me and it doesn't just take 3 hours out of your day. They also have to get ready for it. You have to do it at night. I mean, really, let technology allow us to let them hit the easy button. And some of them are going to steal it, but it really boils down to their confidence in us that we're the ones that are going to deliver. We've been in business. We've got great reviews. You know, that's something you really, if you're in the retail world, holy cow, you better have some 5 stars, and you have a bunch of them on the important sites. But I will tell you, you know, virtually estimating, we have been doing virtual tours of our job sites for, gosh, since about 2011. Before we cover anything up, before we pour concrete or before we insulate, and when we're all done with the job, we have a photographer go through and do a 360 virtual tour, just like Google Street View, and that's for our own records. And now, you know, the technology exists that same virtual tour can be done within in 15 minutes actually. So, and it can deliver dimensions. You do not have to go to the house and pull out a tape measure.
Yeah, and
Matterport measures it for you.
And I think part of what you're talking about, Joe, too, is like I think the whole thing is, you know, as you're learning to shift in some of the ways that you're either, as you say, using technology or doing sales calls online, part of what you're really doing is training people how you work and training people to engage with you differently. So the first thing that has to happen is you have to decide how you're going to do it. And then you have to be clear and consistent about how you communicate your process. So I think that, you know, maybe is just one of the first steps, is rather than look at it, it's kind of like what goes back to what Dolores said, like create a system for what your process is and then communicate that system in that initial call, because people don't know what they don't know. It's like the more clear you are, the easier it is going to be to sell that concept to other people. So I'm going to move on to the next question here, because I want to make sure, and I know we're right at the hour-and-a-half mark here. So one of the questions was from Elaine, and she said, how do you train carpenters and framing systems? And then she said, on the job site ? During a shelter in place. So Elaine, this was Ken, and he was saying that Patrick, and he was saying that he's training his guys on the job site to do different things with a certain distance, but that they are still working. And then Lucy had a question. Patrick, what is your average job size of your projects?
So average job size is about 125,000, but it can swing a lot. But last year, 2019, it was $125,000.
Okay, great, thank you. And then Lucy said, what type of technology are you using to monitor job sites now that we are limited in our movements? So I think that a couple of people shared Builder Trend and Co-Construct. Is there anything, anybody else have any technology that you're using to monitor job sites? You can just take yourself off on mute.
Okay. I mean, video cameras for sure. And the very simple Ring cameras for just a couple $100. If you have, if you've got a signal nearby, you know, their Ring is made for the outdoors. You don't have to buy a $5,000 job site security camera. You know, and even the indoor ones, especially when you're doing a remodel. But that prevents the operations manager from having to go to every single job every single week.
That's great.
And it's cheap.
Yeah, yeah.
It's set up in minutes. So,
Hey, Joe, can you describe how you use the Ring cameras, like how you find them of value?
yeah.
And I'm just gonna interject here if we can make it a very quick answer, because again, I want to make sure we get to everybody's questions.
Yep.
If you don't mind. And we can hang out a little bit longer, but I want to just, let's get through all the questions and we can go back to that if we need to.
So we've gotten the solar powered ones and a little Verizon jetpack and screwed them to a telephone pole so that I can actually see the bodies on the job site. And we've done it on each corner of the job site. And for $500, we got done what was $5,000 a year ago.
Nice. Anybody else? Okay, so thank you. Ricardo just had a comment. He said, very informative. Thank you all for sharing and explaining how you're dealing with the current crisis. Ken said, I love the idea of sharing without any needed response. Edward said, what software are you using for accounting? So again, just take yourselves off of mute and just say what the software is.
So
We use QuickBooks Contractor.
we use Sage 100.
Sage 100.
QuickBooks.
Books online.
We use Sage 100.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Let's see. Diane said screenshots are not, I don't know what this word is, as long as you,
Scalable.
pardon me?
Scalable, maybe.
Oh, scaled. Okay, right. It was an abbreviation for scaled. Thank you. So screenshots are not scaled. So as long as you have design deposits, that helps curate a better client. Okay, thank you, Diane. I think that was the last comment or question. If anybody has any final questions, you can type it into the chat now. Otherwise, I think we will be done. Anyone else have any final questions? What was the interior measurement program that Alex mentioned?
I think that was Joe, maybe.
So yeah, so what was the interior?
Matterhorn.
Okay.
Yeah, and most real estate photographers and a whole bunch of Google photographers in your area use Matterhorn. It's sweeping the real estate industry right now.
Great, thank you, thanks. All right, it looks like we don't have any other questions. Frank, Patrick, Joe, Alex, Ken, and Dolores, thank you. You guys have been amazing. I think you really just provided so much value to people today. I so appreciate you sharing your time, your talent, and your hearts. This has been great. I hope that everybody who has watched and is listening to this has found this to be valuable. And I encourage you to share this recording with anybody else that you know. I will be sending this out in an email to everyone as a link, and I'll also have it on my website. I've created a COVID-19 resource page that is holding videos and some other resources that I've been sending out in emails and webinars that I've been doing over the last few weeks just to help people. So thank you again, and panelists, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Be well, everybody. Stay safe and healthy.